Hello, my friend. Welcome back to Simple Spoken English, where English becomes exciting, confidence becomes real, and learning English feels like sitting with a friend who truly understands you. My name is Jack, and today I want to ask you something. Be honest with me. Have you ever watched an English movie and understood almost everything? Have you ever listened to a podcast and thought, wow, I understand this? But the moment somebody asks you, can you speak English? Your mind suddenly becomes blank. Nothing comes out. You know the words, you know the grammar, you studied for months, maybe years, but your mouth refuses to cooperate. And after that moment, you say to yourself, maybe English isn't for me. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'll never speak fluently. My friend, if this sounds like your story, then stay with me. Because today, I want to tell you about someone named Ethan. And maybe his story is your story too. 3 years ago, Ethan dreamed of speaking English fluently. Every morning before work, he watched English videos. Every night before sleeping, he memorized vocabulary. Beautiful words, difficult words, advanced grammar. He even had 3 notebooks filled with English sentences. People around him thought, wow, Ethan knows so much English. But inside, he was afraid. Because despite all that knowledge, he had never really spoken. Then one day, something happened. His company hired a new manager from America, and everyone became excited. People were introducing themselves, talking, laughing. And Ethan thought, this is my chance. His heart started beating faster. His palms became sweaty. He practiced in his head. Hello, nice to meet you. I am Ethan. I have been working here for 3 years. Simple, right? But when the manager smiled and asked, hey, Ethan, how's it going? Something strange happened. His brain froze completely. He forgot everything. He smiled awkwardly and said, yes, just yes. Nothing else. The manager smiled politely and moved on. And Ethan stood there feeling terrible. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking, what's wrong with me? I know English. I study every day. So why can't I speak? Have you ever felt like that? Maybe after an interview, maybe during a phone call, maybe while talking to foreigners. You understood everything, but your mouth refused to speak. My friend, let me tell you something. Nobody told Ethan. The problem wasn't his English, the problem wasn't vocabulary, and the problem definitely wasn't intelligence. The real enemy was hidden. Something most English learners never realize. It was translation. You see, when somebody asked Ethan a question, his brain did something strange. First, it listened in English, then translated into his native language, then created the answer in his native language, then translated back into English. And finally, he tried to speak. Can you imagine how much work that is? No wonder his brain became tired. No wonder he froze. It's like trying to drive a car while reading a map, checking your phone and solving math problems at the same time. Impossible. And this is exactly what millions of English learners do every day. Maybe even you. Something interesting. Psychologists say something interesting. Your brain loves shortcuts. Anything repeated many times becomes automatic. Think about driving. Remember the first time? You were nervous, hands shaking, looking everywhere, thinking about every movement. But today, you drive without thinking. Why? Because repetition created automatic behavior. Speaking English works exactly the same way. Fluent speakers don't translate. They don't think about grammar. They don't analyze every word. They simply express ideas, just like you do in your own language. And that changed Ethan's life forever. Because one day, he met an old English teacher named David. David listened to Ethan's problems and smiled. Then he asked, "Ethan, when you're hungry, what do you think?" Ethan replied, "I think about food." David smiled. "No. I mean, what words appear in your mind?" Ethan thought for a moment, then said, "I think I'm hungry." David nodded. "Exactly. You didn't translate. You thought directly. And that's how fluent English begins." My friend, what if I told you? You don't need 10,000 words. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't even need an American accent. What if fluency is much simpler than that? What if the secret is teaching your brain to stop translating and start thinking directly in English? Because that's exactly what Ethan learned. And in the next chapter, I'll tell you the strange exercise David gave him. At first, Ethan thought it was stupid, too simple, almost childish. But after 30 days, something unbelievable happened. For the first time in his life, English started coming out naturally, without fear, without translation, without overthinking. And trust me, my friend, if Ethan could do it, you can too. So before we continue, subscribe to Simple Spoken English, because in the next chapter, I'm going to reveal the exercise that changed Ethan's life forever. And maybe it will change yours too. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to Simple Spoken English. I'm Jack, and if you've reached this chapter, I want to tell you something. I'm proud of you, because most people want to speak English. But very few people are patient enough to understand how fluency actually works. And today, I want to continue Ethan's story. Because after that embarrassing day with his American manager, Ethan felt broken. He stopped speaking. He stopped answering questions. Whenever someone spoke English around him, he pretended to be busy. Deep inside, he felt ashamed. He wasn't afraid of English. He was afraid of making mistakes. And honestly, maybe you felt the same. Maybe you know many words. Maybe you've watched hundreds of videos. Maybe you've filled notebooks with grammar rules. But still, when it's time to speak, fear appears, and that fear whispers, "Don't say anything. What if you make a mistake? What if people laugh? What if they think you're stupid?" And slowly, that fear becomes stronger than your dreams. That's exactly where Ethan was. Until he met an old English teacher named David. David wasn't impressed by Ethan's vocabulary. He wasn't interested in grammar books. Instead, he asked a strange question. "Ethan, when you were 5 years old, did you study grammar before speaking your first language?" Ethan laughed. "Of course not." David smiled. "Then why are you trying to become fluent through grammar?" Ethan became quiet. Because nobody had ever asked him that. Then David gave him the strangest exercise. No textbooks, no grammar lessons, no vocabulary lists. Just one simple challenge. Describe your life in English. Ethan thought, "That's it?" David smiled. "Yes, that's it." The next morning, Ethan woke up. And instead of checking social media, he looked at his room and said quietly, "I'm waking up. I'm opening my eyes. I'm feeling sleepy. I'm getting out of bed." At first he felt silly. He thought, "This is childish. This can't work." But David told him something powerful. Children don't become fluent because they're intelligent. They become fluent because they repeat simple things every day. And something interesting started happening. When Ethan went to the kitchen, he said, "I'm making coffee. The water is hot. I need breakfast." When he walked outside, he said, "The sky is beautiful. It's sunny today. I'm going to work." Nothing complicated. No advanced vocabulary. No perfect grammar. Just life. Simple life. And slowly, something inside his brain started changing. One evening, Ethan called David. "Teacher, I still don't feel fluent. David laughed. Ethan, when you planted a seed yesterday, did you expect a tree today? No. Then why are you expecting fluency in 1 week? My friend, this is where many learners quit, because they want instant results. They want miracles. But language learning isn't magic. It's psychology. Your brain creates pathways, and pathways take time. Just like muscles grow slowly, fluency grows slowly. And here's something psychologists discovered. Your brain remembers emotions more than information. That's why you remember embarrassing moments from years ago. That's why songs stay in your mind. And that's why personal experiences are powerful. David understood this. So one day he told Ethan, "Stop studying words. Start living words." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. David said, "When you feel tired, say I'm tired. When you're happy, say I'm happy. When you're hungry, say I'm hungry. When you're angry, say I'm angry." Connect English to emotions, because emotions create memories. And that's exactly what Ethan did. When he felt excited after receiving his salary, he said, "I'm excited today." When he was nervous before a meeting, he whispered, "I'm nervous." When he missed his family, he said, "I miss my parents." Little by little, English stopped being a subject and started becoming part of his life. One day, something amazing happened. Ethan was walking home after work. He saw dark clouds, and suddenly, without translating, without thinking, without trying, his mind said, "It looks like it's going to rain." He stopped walking. His eyes became wide, and he smiled. No translation, no effort. It just came. That tiny moment changed everything, because he realized something. Fluency doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives one sentence at a time, one thought at a time, one small victory at a time. And maybe you're waiting for some magical day when you'll suddenly become fluent. But that's not how it works. Fluency isn't an event. It's a process. And every day you're practicing. Even if you don't realize it, your brain is changing. So, my friend, I want to challenge you. Starting today, talk to yourself in English. Not for 1 hour, not for 30 minutes, just 5 minutes, while brushing your teeth, while cooking, while walking, while driving. Describe your life. Simple sentences, simple words, because that's how children learn, and that's how fluent speakers are born. And if you're enjoying this journey with me, subscribe to Simple Spoken English, because in Part 3, I'll tell you what happened 6 months later. How Ethan overcame fear, how he stopped overthinking, and the shocking moment when he spoke English naturally with a foreign customer for the first time in his life. Trust me, you don't want to miss that story. Because Ethan's transformation might become your transformation too. And remember, you don't need perfect English. You just need daily English. And I'll see you in part 3. And before we continue Ethan's story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like giving up? Not because English was difficult, but because you were tired. Tired of forgetting words. Tired of making mistakes. Tired of feeling embarrassed. Tired of asking yourself, when will I finally become fluent? Maybe you've had days when you wanted to quit. Maybe you've looked at other people speaking English and thought, they are talented. They are lucky. I can never be like them. Well, 6 months ago, Ethan thought exactly the same. But something happened that changed his life forever. And maybe it will change yours too. Because 6 months after meeting David, Ethan wasn't perfect. He still made mistakes. He still forgot words. Sometimes he still translated. But something was different. He wasn't afraid anymore. And that's because David taught him one final lesson. He said, Ethan, confidence doesn't come before speaking. Confidence comes from speaking. People think confidence is magic. It's not. It's repetition. And Ethan slowly understood something. The problem had never been English. The problem was fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of being judged. But David asked him a powerful question. Ethan, when babies learn to walk, do we laugh when they fall? No. We encourage them. Then why do you punish yourself every time you make a mistake? Ethan had no answer, because for years, he treated himself like an enemy. Whenever he made a mistake, he would say, My English is terrible. I'm stupid. I'll never become fluent. But David told him something that changed his mindset forever. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend. If your friend made mistakes, would you insult him? No. You would encourage him. So encourage yourself. And from that day, everything began to change. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. A foreign customer entered Ethan's office. Nobody else was available. Everyone looked at Ethan. His heart started beating fast. 6 months earlier, he would have run away, but this time, he took a deep breath. The customer smiled and asked, Excuse me, can you help me? And Ethan answered, "Sure. How can I help you?" Simple words. Nothing fancy, no advanced vocabulary, but something amazing happened. The conversation continued. One sentence became two, two became five, five became 10. And after a few minutes, the customer smiled and said, "Thank you. Your English is really good." Ethan couldn't believe it, because he still heard mistakes in his own speech. But the customer didn't care. He understood him. And that's when Ethan realized the biggest truth about language learning. People don't care about your grammar. People care about communication. People don't expect perfection. They expect connection. And suddenly, years of pressure disappeared. That night, Ethan called David. "Teacher, I did it." David laughed. "No, Ethan. You've been doing it every day. Today you simply noticed it." And that's true, my friend, because fluency doesn't happen